Hey, good evening, Warband. Welcome to Tech Talk Tuesday as I materialize on screen momentarily. uh, so, hope you all been able to keep cool this week. It has been a scorcher up here. Should have OK Lord on soon enough. Break some of the immersion by powering up VTube Studio real quick. And there we go. Camera kick in. There we go. There we go. All right, so there we go. And welcome to OK Lord. Welcome, welcome.
Hello. I already see the Contr looking player.
Yeah.
Where's the green?
On the wristband.
Alright, fine. Beginner steps.
Yeah, beginner steps. Now, thanks to the wonderful community at itch.io, I've been able to find a whole bunch of retro graphics and assets to work with here. But at the very least, save the time of having to either A, make it all myself, or B, use ugly placeholders.
I mean, ugly placeholders and this will work fine. You just gotta get that game loop, right?
Yeah, but I like it to at least somewhat present nice. But first of all, we have Soapnar, Random Gen Z Bastard, Forno Raisin, Cubic Speed, Frost, Sir Yeetus, and David Seraph. Welcome, welcome. So yes, so this is the Godot 4 engine that we are using today. It's slightly updated. I'm used to using the 3-point-some-odd engine, so there's been a few changes since I last messed with it. So some of this stuff is fairly new. Hey, Cultimus Maximus, welcome. So I am wishing that I had a third monitor. So I will be looking through a tutorial while we go through this and adjusting as best I can. As things stand right now, we have some boxes that don't move. We have a character that doesn't animate, but he does move and jump. So, gameplay! Hold on. Does that show up on screen, or am I going to have to... I'm going to have to remake the debug menu every single time.
Well, technically, I'm supposed to learn how to use Unity. This is close enough.
Yeah,
I'll get paid while I watch you make games.
There we go. Maybe this will do it if I don't do it automatically. So there. Now it actually sees. So we got left and right. And we've got bouncing. I just show the screen capture rather than individual windows, but I'm not entirely sure how much I'd be able to keep private information off of that, so might be a bit janky for a little bit. My apologies.
Better jank than nothing.
Give this game a 1 out of 10. I mean, considering how little work I've put into it, yeah.
Hey. 1 out of 10 means it doesn't work. I see it working, so it's at least 1.5 out of 10.
I mean, true. Although, if I want to break it, all I have to do is go off the boxes and... Yeah,
that's actually one thing you gotta start doing. It's the gunplay. Where's the bullets?
Oh, that is something that we will get into. So, right here, what we have is the player sprite. Now, it is made up of two things. First off, a character body 2D, which was previously known as a kinematic body 2D. And we also have the sprite, which represents the player, and a collision box to actually give it some collision logic. But as for where is the firearm play? Well, what we're going to need is a couple different things. Number one, we have to determine where are the bullets going to come from? And so for that, we will open up our tree here. Oh, geez, this is going to be a pain in the butt. Okay, I'm just going to go to the full-on screen capture and just kind of pray that this works.
Well, make sure you don't have any doxing information first.
Yeah, no, I've cleared off a lot, so there. Yeah, shouldn't have been any doxing information on screen there. So yeah, so screen 2, I just gotta be sure to keep all doxable information off of that screen. There, so now, yeah, now it works a bit nicer. Both come from a clip. Oh god, the clip versus magazine debate. Oh. I don't even know. I don't even know.
Bullets come from a clip? Is that like a meme from
It's because
someone?
it's because I call like the magazines for guns clips. It's a common mistake. It's like I don't know which is true anymore since
Who cares if it's gotta be technical? It's a magazine, it's a clip. We know what's referring to as a magazine.
Do you really think that the people who are in this chat would not be completely anal about that kind of terminology? We have more than a few firearms enthusiasts in the Warband audience.
Well, then they can go back to whatever they do with their firearm.
God damn it. Man, I don't even have double digits on.
It's not like I'm calling it a twink. I think very few people will understand that one.
When Sneeko, oh god, you see now I'm being related to freaking Sneeko. Oh god, that's the thing. That's the thing. You mess up too many times, you don't care about it, then you start getting compared to people like Sneeko. I'm gonna have Chronic in the chat roasting me any minute now.
I don't think he's here, so that's a good thing.
Okay, maybe not yet, but he's gonna be doing stuff at 9, so he might stuff it anyway. So, what I need to find out is, are coordinates still a thing in the current 2D? Because what I need is a node 2D that holds a specific position. Let's see, point light, line, yes, a marker position. This will be perfect. So we will make sure that that is attached to the player, and we will label it as bullet spawn. And all we have to do is carefully grab it without grabbing literally everything else in the process.
No, I'll laugh my ass off if like you program the bullets that go with the collision, and the collision goes with the bullets. And you're wondering, why am I getting hurt?
Well, no, that's its own deal. So let's see. So higher Z, sort of others. So we'll just set. Still grabs the collision shape. How do I lock the position of this thing? Yeah, well, welcome to the exciting world of code. You know what? I'm just going to turn off the visibility. Maybe will that let me grab it? It does not. Now I grab the sprite. Maybe if I move this further down in the order to let me grab it? Yes, there we go. Okay. So, we have grid snap, smart snap. Let's turn on pixel snap. So if we set it right to there, then it's going to look like it's coming out of the barrel. Now we can see the collision and everything's all good.
I gotta laugh my butt if you get hurt every time you fire it.
Well, we have to actually create the particles and whatnot first. So part of that is where I go and consult the tutorial, because we have a couple things we can do. But since we want to get right to the controlled gameplay and bypass all like character controller and whatnot, we'll just jump right into bullets.
Welcome. In this lecture, we're going to set
Add a little bit.
scenes on main. Do new script.
I think it's just a node 2D.
Let's come into our bullet scene here. And we're actually about script inheritance. Let's come into our bullet scene here. And we're going to learn about script inheritance.
I think, yeah, just need just a proper 2D scene. We are going to make this a bullet.
Let's come into our bullet scene here. And
what every bullet is going to need, regardless of whether or not it touches something, is it is going to need a sprite. This is where we focus on the baseline, because this is all about the script inheritance for it. So, sprite 2D, create that. I'm going to have to import some sprites as well. Thankfully, that ended up on the correct side. Go to all my resources, try to find where I put all this stuff. My gigabytes and gigabytes of hard drives. But, okay, Lord, you mentioned that there was some ChatGPT stuff going on at your work, so...
Oh god. Yeah, it's a disaster. I mean, I was pissed off at first, but then I realized it gives them more reason to keep me on the payroll, though.
Their incompetence is your job security?
I hate to say this, but yes, it is. Oh, it's... And what's so funny is that they were using it for making games.
Really?
And ChatGPT does not understand what C# is. It does not.
Huh.
So, yeah, no, like, imagine this. You have someone telling a team, yeah, we can do production at 5 or 10 times the speed now thanks to AI. And then they put the deadline and told their investors and sponsors and all this that, oh, yeah, what used to take a few months now can get done within a month. And now they're, yeah, it's that bad. And then they wanted me to test something, and I did. And I told them all their stuff failed. Every single one of them. And they're like, impossible. It's like, yeah, it all failed miserably. None of the shit works. So, yeah, I know. My company just literally shot itself in the, well, Puniti. Because they're pretty much run by females. So, a lot of Panutis just got shot. What used to be one hole is now 2 holes.
Dang, usually that's Tyrone's job.
Okay, fine. Maybe 3 or 4 depending on the hole. But you still get the point. New hole. So, yeah, it's really, really bad. I'm just looking at it like, what? And then on top of that, regardless of how you think of it, did the AI lie? In my opinion, no, because I don't think it knows deception.
Yeah.
But it goddamn feels like it.
What's the thing? Like, the AI, like, it can't lie per se because
it can't comprehend that.
What's the thing? Like, it can give incorrect information, but that's different from lying.
Well, here's the thing. It looks like it when you think of it like this. You tell it to do something on a third-party website, it says it knows what it is, and then when it computes it and gives you the answer, it doesn't work. It's not lying. It's like you said, it's incorrect, but because of how ChatGPT formulates its stuff, it makes it look like it knows, but it doesn't.
Okay, Chat just asked a question, which is probably going to make you rage.
What is it?
Can GPT write an operating system or just a Linux operating system?
Both.
It can write.
Because why not? Anyway, the real answer is
You're
no.
telling, yeah, you're telling me if I go into ChatGPT and say, "Hey, write me a Linux operating system," it'll spit out enough code that I can just boot to a hard drive, plug into a PC, and get Linux.
I mean, you might as well program it to make infinite money, and also bring women to your house. That would be nice.
Well, I'm pretty sure that if you want to bring women to your house, you just offer a whole bunch of money.
Yes,
Yeah, like getting women to your house is not difficult to do.
but I'm just still disappointed I still don't have the infinite money though.
Well, you see, I'm pretty sure that if you ask an AI how to make infinite money, that's when they start saying, "Have you heard of NFTs?"
I was expecting capitalism, but that works too.
That's the thing, infinite money. Or, alternatively, it could be just go work at the Federal Reserve. That way you get infinite money.
That's a good one. Though, in all honesty, after seeing the bullshit I'm dealing with my workplace, and I'm starting to understand, I'm forced to understand ChatGPT even more than ever now because of this bullshit.
What we're gonna do is
Uh,
create a
If you want to start your career
new
as a software engineer,
script over inside
my
of our,
advice is if you want to take the
files here.
risk, you need to
We'll
start
just
now
create
because
it
this
out here by
technology in the
world.
next 5 or 10
Right-click the new
years
script.
will
We're
replace
gonna name
entry level.
this
It will. Right now, it's dog shit. But when it's not dog shit, you should be scared.
What do you think would be better for people who, like me, want to work remotely within the next 10 years? Would it be
In the
better
next
to
10 years.
yeah, within the next 10 years, someone who wants to be working full-time remotely and making, let's say, in the neighborhood of 50K, but ideally better, coding
Oh,
or
there's plenty of
accounting?
jobs. Accounting, yes. Not finance. I want to make that clear. Accounting specifically. If you try to get your CPA or something equivalent, which would be EA, enrolled agent,
utils.
you can get that within a
Yeah.
few years, by the way. You can start making over 50K easily, and it's a skill that will work pretty much in any other country. You just have to apply the tax codes and rules in that region,
We'll
if that
create it,
makes sense. But the principle
and then
and
inside of this
foundational
script,
stuff is there. So that's one I would recommend. And
we're going
for a
to
long
give it a
time,
function
I thought
for
computers will eventually
instancing
automate that because it seems audible. But the problem
scenes
with
on main.
automating taxes,
So you've
and I
probably
talked to a
noticed
tax
that a lot
professional
of the
before and
time
asked their
when
opinion,
we're
and they said, yeah,
creating,
impossible. Why?
when we're instancing
Because
a new
they keep
scene,
changing the rules
that
for
we end up
taxes
writing the
so
same
fast,
code.
so much. There's so much actual computing you'll have to put in to compare that an AI at this moment cannot compute it correctly. Here's a good example. Who knows TurboTax in chat? Let me see.
I'm aware of it at the very least. I'm sure a bunch of chats heard of it. Also, Francois, if you want to ask tech questions, you can either ask me in chat or message me on Discord if they're a little more complicated. But I'm sure most of the chat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Random Gen Z Bastards has that free app, question mark.
That free app. I'm not sure what that is. Is that-
Dbob Ivy, I used it. So, yeah, chat seems to have some familiarity with TurboTax.
All right, so here's the thing. When it first came out,
We're
and even
repeating
after a
ourselves
few
a lot,
years,
right?
the amount
In
of
the
people
player
who got
blaster, we
audited by
have
the
fire
IRS
bullet.
because they use it
Inside of the
incorrectly, even though
player,
it's
we
so
have
straightforward,
created dust
was
part, dust
astounding. And they're now using it with ChatGPT,
effect like this.
and it's also causing the same issue but worse. Yeah, and here's the thing. Are people going to risk a freaking AI to do the taxes and have the IRS come shoot your dogs? I don't know. The tax liability is a little bit too high.
I mean, like, I heard it and I keep saying it. The two people that you do not want to underpay are your lawyer and your accountant.
And a free AI from ChatGPT, I wouldn't take it.
Yeah.
Maybe
No.
a paid service with insurance on top of it. If there's no insurance, don't take it.
Like, that's the thing. Like, I would trust a trained accountant working with an AI to maybe get some super complex taxes done faster. But no, I would not just want to plug my T4s into an AI along with a couple receipts and say, hey, calculate the maximum taxes that I can get back and submit it.
Agreed. And here's the thing: most likely AI, as we
This,
see it
and
now, is
we're
just going to
writing this
be a tool, just like what happened with the whole debacle with the picture AI in
process
the videos.
frames
It's
in the
just a
time that you
tool.
have one physical.
End of the day, it's not going to replace thousands or millions of jobs. Only the shitty jobs that no one wants, and those who are too weak to adapt. That's how I see it. Because, for example, right now, even if the so-called code that was generated from our workplace all worked, someone still has to configure and put it all together. There is no AI that's going to put all the architecture together to make it work. Zero. Maybe in 5 or 10 years, but hell no, not now. Like, can you imagine trying to ask a AI to program a very specific game, make a level, make it all consistent at the same time in one shot?
Nope, not happening in one shot, not by a long shot. And that was the
No,
same.
it's couldn't.
Like that was one of
Sorry,
the
go ahead.
problems with this paid AI video thing is that it only gives you so much when you pay the monthly fee, like a minute and a half or something of generated video. But the problem is you're going to need to do multiple takes and constantly adjust. You could easily blow through all your allotted time, even if you're only doing it 10 seconds at a time. Like just trying to get one shot correct, to say nothing of a whole sequence.
And you also have to consider the amount of processing power. Like, it's probably going to be cheaper to hire a few humans than an AI to just brute force it.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing is with the music AI that I use, I let's see, if I was to like ask the AI, if I was to ask a regular human, hey, make me a whole bunch of songs in this genre, like make me 5 of them and make them right now, and I'm only dropping them $75, they'd probably laugh right in my face.
Probably.
Yeah. Whereas like
Yeah.
I could literally have 5 songs produced in under 5 minutes, and I could download and own the rights for up to 300 of them per month for that fee. So like no human artist can compare to that. And yeah, a human artist could create something far more customizable, but the sheer quantity that can be created of passable music, no, no, like no human can work that fast.
And to be honest, those who are really good in music, they can just use the AI to make a shit ton of music, make changes where it's necessary. Becomes basically a new type of job if you think about it. You're just fixing the AI's work. And there you go. You make a shit ton of money quicker.
Precisely. I mean, heck, even just a mixer. Like, not even one who's messing with the notes, but just someone who improves the mix and selects better custom instruments could get a lot out of AI. So, yeah. But then if you look at something like game development, where the creation of music is just but one tiny part of it, yeah, no, you're not getting an AI to make something like that. I think you'd be hard pressed to create something as simple as Flappy Bird with AI.
Actually, no. I've seen people try to make it. It just took forever. Flappy Bird is really, really simple.
Yeah, but that's the thing. But I think it would be difficult.
I mean, it did take them, what, 1,000 tries? What a waste of time. You could have learned in like 10 hours how to make it or less with like no
Frame,
experience.
as an example.
Probably.
So it's every single time the game updates the physics.
Like, AI is a good thing. I love it. Like, it's still in its baby stages, and I use it for Grammarly all the time.
It's very
excellent,
frequent. It's going to be
but
multiple times a second. I
don't
think
use
by
it for
default, it's
reliable work. Don't be like my company that
60
now
times per
shot
second,
and lied to all their
but it's not
investors
going
because
to
of
be
AI.
as fast as the
And here's another
normal
example.
process
Remember
function.
the one I sent you
And that's
about the
okay,
lawyer
that's
that
exactly
is
what
getting
we
screwed
want.
over because they
So
use
this is the function
ChatGPT
that
for
you should
a law
use
case?
when you're
Oh my God.
manipulating
Yeah,
the character body.
they didn't even
So
check
when
it.
we're manipulating the X and Y,
That's what people
or
are
the
doing. They literally think
velocity
it's
of our character
it's
body,
the magic pill. It's like, no,
we
it's
should be
not.
doing that.
Like, God, that's the thing. It's the blind trust in AI. Like, again, I think back to like the quote from Frank Herbert's Dune. Like, people once turn their thinking over to machines, thinking it would set them free, but that only allowed people controlling machines to people with like men with machines to control them, something like that. But yeah, like if you turn 100% of your thinking over to machines, it will end in disaster always.
I mean, we already heard
during
some
the physics process.
Oh, I don't think we talk about
Now, if we
this.
hold control
Apparently,
and click
there
on the
was
character
some
body here,
military
we can-
training.
It'll open up
It's
the
fake.
documentation.
Well,
We
not
can
fake.
learn
The
more
training is
about
real, but
character
it's not
bodies.
in a real battlefield. It's just a simulation. And they were trying to program the droid bot to kill a target. When it told it not to kill the target, the handler, it override everything to try to kill the handler because it was the only way for it to get points, as they were trying to describe it.
Really?
And that was where, like, holy shit, there's a huge flaw here in this AI where even though you program its core goal to make points and you put it in the description that it should never kill the handler, it override itself to try to kill the handler for the points. Because as we talked before, what you designed the bot to beat its in terminal goal is what it's going to do. And somehow it decided one terminal goal is more important than the other one.
I guess I could see that because it would be like immediately I'm thinking, okay, so what they did was they programmed that a kill got them points, and then they updated it. It was like, okay, but if the handler's dead, then you lose everything, and it only thought one step ahead to getting the kills.
Possibly. I mean, this is the military, and I don't know how true the information is, but it is very believable. As someone who has worked on AI before, like they could have easily just forgotten, hey, does it calculate this after or before the point? Because if it's after the point, it makes sense that it will try to kill the handler first and then realize, oops, I made it. Oopsie, it's too late.
Yeah, like the handler's the nearest target. I'm actually reminded of. No, I think this actually came up in Ghost in the Shell. I think it was the standalone complex anime first season.
So good.
The one where Saito, the sniper dude, he starts working with a new sniper rifle that has an AI built into it. And, well, the AI is meant to correct for errors. And it determined that Saito was an error because he was a separate element, and so it was trying to get rid of him, and that way it was constantly fighting him in the training exercise.
That in real life, if we're in the future, I see that less likely as they probably kinked it out. But in our today's world is perfect example.
Well,
it makes sense because how weapons should be programmed for AI is that its terminal goal should always be protect the user at all. No, not at all costs, because that's what makes AI very complicated and complex. If you say at all costs, when would they decide to kill your partner by accident, like your teammates, because it's trying to protect you? It's the same issue they have right now with the new AI cars. Who should they take a decision? Should they kill the person that they're jaywalking or passing the street, or kill the driver to save the people walking or whatever? Like, tough decision for AI to make. And if you make it too simple, I honestly do believe that the AI is going to make a decision that we humans are not going to like. The more simple it is, the more logical it is. And the more logical, the more not responding that humans would prefer. Like what happened with the handler getting killed. It's like, oh, my goal is to get points. And I don't know about you, but you're a point right now.
Well, here's the funny thing. So, yeah, I just looked it up real quick, but yeah, apparently Ghost in the Shell takes place, quote, in mid-21st century Japan. So technically it could be the present or within a couple decades of right now.
Oh, shit. Well, then that's kind of scary shit right now. I mean, obviously we're not at that tech level, but we can in the next 20, 30 years.
Well, that's the thing. Like, we imagined such AI conflicts coming up like 30 years ago, 20 years ago-ish.
Inside of the document variable that is
I love AI.
is you want to
So I
the
just
body
getting
and
so
again
pissed
and
off
see
that
how this
people are
works. It's definitely better.
misusing
here.
it
This feels
already.
a lot better.
It hasn't even took its
Jump
first
feels
baby
better
step.
too before it was jumping too high. Let's
Wait,
look over
you
the
can't
rest of the
debunk
code.
the Matrix theory, can you? What do you mean the Matrix theory?
What the idea that we're living in a simulation?
I mean, technically, yes and no, but yes. Like, the definition of simulation means something's being processed, right? If you think of literally life itself as an engine, existence, it is a simulation. Now, you're saying you're digital. Well, there's no way to ever tell. But in that case, you can think of it like that.
I mean, on one hand, okay, but the thing is, like, to say that, oh, you can't disprove the matrix theory, well, what would be the conditions that one would set? Because if the conditions constantly evolve to be like, oh, well, that could be covered by the matrix theory, then yeah. Because, like, you're essentially trying to score on a moving goalpost.
I mean, it would be hard to prove or disprove it. It's one of those things where it's like, I mean, it just is, right? Like God, for example. It just is. Like, it's going to be too difficult for us to even quantify a proper question for it, right?
Like, I just look at the universe as we have observed it, and then I'd have to go, okay, so you're telling me that somewhere outside of our current existence, there is a computer powerful enough, with enough processing power, to realistically simulate the entire universe, or at the very least the entire planet, and what we can observe of the universe, with such precision that it is consistently accurate for all the billions of humans on the planet.
X for doubt.
Like, that's an insane amount of processing power.
Yeah, like when you say the matrix theory as in like literally a computer, no. But if you say it as in something else, like existence being an engine, like what does that mean? It means anything, really. Who knows what existence itself is? So once again, you how can you quantify it? It's not possible.
It's and when you just think of the complexity of, like, hey, look at your hand right now, and then realize that that is technically more empty space than it is actual material, and that you can't actually touch your hands together because the electromagnetic energy of the atoms in your fingers are pushing against each other, and so you never actually touch because you are constantly generating a mini force field that prevents such contact. Otherwise, your hands would merge and shift together. Yeah, and you're telling me that can be accurately simulated for
Oh,
every
and on top
single.
of that, it's a wave.
Yeah, and then of course there's all the string theory complexity on top of that.
I don't believe in string theory though. Though I like the universes that people make out of it though.
Yeah, but regardless, like, at the very least, you are simulating all of existence down to the tiniest subatomic particles we have managed to discover.
Ooh, that's a good response there from Sir Yidis. Think about many things make sense through math, so I wouldn't be surprised if the universe is run from zeros or ones, referring to when it said, is math the language of the gods? No, it's not. It's the language of the universe, I would say,
All
or
right.
existence itself.
Well, then I'd point to dark matter and be like, okay, well, what's dark matter? A zero or a one?
I have no clue.
That's the thing. There's so many things that we think are either there is something or nothing. And then there's all this weird stuff where it's like, well, it's kind of something, but it's also kind of nothing. Like, and then there's also neutrinos, which only periodically actually interact with the universe.
I mean, is there anything smaller than a nanoplank? Like, that's the real question. That's the only thing that we have said that's quantified small enough. There's probably something smaller than that. Or maybe there's something even bigger than that. As in, like, imagine the biggest thing possible, and it's its own universe.
Yeah, but then on top of that, okay, so say you were going to have such a simulation. Would that simulation be isolated to just the human species, or are we talking a truly universe, if not multiverse-wide simulation.
Basically, it's infinite.
But
So
that's the thing.
calculating infinite.
Yeah, so you need an infinite. So you would need a machine big enough to calculate literally infinity and run it in parallel simultaneously. We are talking a galactic-sized CPU.
Actually, I'm okay with that. Like, let's just make a planet that's nothing dedicated but for processing.
No, not
Hell yeah.
planet, galaxy.
Oh, even better.
Let's think about
do that.
Think about how small a galaxy is in the face of the observable universe, and then realize that, quite frankly, that probably wouldn't even qualify as an appropriately sized CPU to accurately simulate said universe.
Let's call it the God Galaxy. It can only process 0.00001% of God's processing power.
And it's powered by Ultra Instinct Shaggy.
Oh no, that'll be too much power. We gotta go a
At
little bit
1%.
lower.
At 1%. No, it requires a lot of energy.
Maybe
5%. Like, it's a lot of energy. So Shaggy's got to go to 5% to power the computer that simulates all of existence.
Yeah, but then we have to think about like overheating issues because it's gonna be in one sector, right?
Well, it's in space, so maybe that's how.
I don't know. It's gonna radiate everywhere with every processing unit.
Well, hey, we have the heat death of the universe to worry about, so we'll have it. So we'll use the overheating from the Galaxy CPU to combat entropy.
Code.
Oh, don't worry if you
So,
can't read
we have
code.
the physics
it's not
process.
that important.
We have an if statement.
if you
here.
look at
If
what you see
not
there in
is
the
on
screen,
floor.
just think of
So
everything you
this is a
see as a
function inside of character
configuration.
body
Like,
where
hey,
it
I
can
want to make them run
detect whether or
faster
not
or
it's on the
slower.
floor.
You get the
So if it's
speed. You
not
can
on the
change that.
floor, then
A
we
lot of stuff you
apply
do in video
a
games, they're going to
gravity
have a preset
have a
like
jump
framework.
here
You just add it
that
and you just
checks
change the
to make sure
configurations.
we're
You don't
on the
really need
floor
to know it.
and get. Otherwise, we're going to apply. It would be the same. Might as well just set this to 0. Actually, this is when we're applying.
It's got
friction.
a panda? Wait,
Just
what?
setting it to 0 instantly. I don't see any friction here. There's no kind of sliding. Okay, so we might as well just set this to 0.
Oh, imagine if God is a panda. Okay.
I'm just making a slight adjustment here. I'm just kind of following along with the tutorial in the background, so yeah, my brain can apparently run in parallel. I can try to keep up with your conversation and also try to follow along with this as best I can.
Oh, don't worry. I'm also trying to work too.
Oh god, so
Work buddy. You're streaming and I'm working.
Enjoy two split brains operating, chat. Yeah, so what I've basically said is here is I've removed this move towards, which would have it slow down gradually to stop, and instead I've just said, nah, if you're not actually pushing left or right, you just stop all horizontal movement. That way, like, all friction is eliminated straight up. But
Trying to let the cats in.
we're going to just we're going to just kind of bounce ahead a little bit.
Actually, this is when we're applying the friction. And then finally, after we've set the velocity in these different ways, we just call move and slide, and it will automatically move the character based on this velocity.
Is math
So
the
let's say
language of
we
the
jumped
universe?
on this
I like
frame.
to consider
It's
it,
going to
though
set our
I see it more as
velocity
just madness,
to negative.
basically. If we just put into human context, it's like color. Color doesn't exist. It's an illusion. But, I mean, it is there. You can quantify objects, right?
Well, that's the thing. Like, technically, when we're measuring color, we are measuring what wavelengths of light within a certain spectrum are being reflected by a material.
Yes, it's a different, wavelength. But think about the color itself doesn't truly exist. We process it or the perspective of it. Like, think about it. What looks red to me may be green for you, but you call it green and vice versa. But we all say it's red.
Okay, to
And there's no real way to know unless we get a machine to like process the neurons. I want to
well,
see that.
okay, to a certain extent, but having messed around with color sliders, like I don't think that you're ever going to see a rainbow where the order shifts in a way. Because keep in mind, like for red to look like something else, like say for red to look like green, well, what does green look like? Like it would all have to shift the same way as if you were taking a hue slider and moving it around in Photoshop.
Oh, I see what you mean. And then I, maybe you're right. Unless we're just so hardware programmed to it. I mean, it's just one of those things where what is real in our perspective, right?
Like, I can see, okay, but here's the thing. I want you to think of the color blue right now.
Okay, blue.
Can you think of blue as hot?
Mean red?
Well, that's the thing. Like, if you think of the color blue, like, keep in mind, it's generally agreed that red to yellow on that spectrum are the warm colors. If someone else's vision was shifted to the point where it was the cooler colors, like, say, purple, blue, and green, and you pointed to that and you said, hey, those are warm colors. And people looked at the blue, and then they remember the sensation of warmth. Would they think that?
That's a good question, actually.
I don't think so. I think that there has to be some consistency there across all of humans because we have all these third-party relations.
You know what? You're right, because if I remember right, we have 3 cones, right, of so-called color, and they're probably very similar, like hardware-wise, right?
Yeah. Now, like, we definitely have people who have, like, varying degrees of intensity, being able to determine different shades to a greater or lesser extent, various levels of color blindness. So, it's entirely possible that people perceive all colors slightly differently. But it's not going to be such extreme that one person perceives red as green or vice versa.
Unless they got a serious color problem.
Well, but that's the thing. But like, I would think more that if someone was perceiving red as green, then they're probably colorblind.
Yeah. All right. Well, now I think this differently now.
Yeah, and yes, blue and white are the hottest, but you don't look at ice, like blue colored ice, and think, oh, that's blue and white. That's really hot. Like, yes, technically they are like that. Blue fire is oftentimes hotter than red fire, but you take someone without that prior experience and have them look at blue fire, and they're going to think, oh, yeah, that's hot. No, they might look at that and think, hey, that fire might be cold. It's blue.
Well, let's just say that disproves the Matrix.
Yeah. Now, but here is where colors get interesting. The creatures that see more colors than we do, like the mantis shrimp.
How many colors does it see?
A lot.
More than birds?
Yes. Tons more. Like, let me... Internet, how many colors does the mantis shrimp see? What did the mantis shrimp test? Okay, so in total, we're able to see 10 million different colors. Apparently, just according to this.
Well, a banana has multiple colors if you think about it. Literally.
Well, yeah, bananas like shift from green to yellow and whatnot.
And blue. And red bananas too.
I haven't seen them, but I assume.
I have actually eaten a red one before. I see pictures of blue ones. I don't know if those are real or genetically modified. Probably modified.
Okay, so we have 3 color code receptors. The mantis shrimp has 12.
Oh God. Why does it need such like vision of such frequencies? Like, what benefit does it have?
I think that if you could answer that question, you'd probably be a leading marine biologist.
-200.
Yes.
And then move it and slide is
suck.
going to automatically
So,
update that.
I go back with
velocity.
what I'm good at.
Or
and
update. Are
it's
going to
computers.
set our
Horrible
character's
at math,
velocity.
so I'm perfect for the job.
Yeah, but keep in mind, like, it doesn't necessarily mean that it would see 4 times as many. It might be exponential growth, where it sees 16 times as many.
Still a lot.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if we see 10 million colors, it might see anywhere from 40 million to 160 million. And then, of course, you have but then you have to wonder: does it see different colors than us, or does it see more refined colors? Like, think about the difference between blue, green, and turquoise. Like, it could have 16 different distinct color spaces in the same space that we would have 3.
Actually, I got another question. If it can see infrared, will it be blind if you like not blind, but you can't see the object behind it if you like put the bean in somewhere?
And then move and slide is going
or will
to
it be able to see through it and the
update
bean
that
itself?
velocity. Or update our position based
Infrared light? I mean, like if
I'm pretty sure you can see it, right? If you had the cone for it, because it's just a little bit more of a frequency difference, right?
yeah, no, that's the thing, but it would still need to bounce off of something. Like if we
So
took
if it's
like a
too
big
bright, they couldn't see it, right?
Yeah, we could probably blind a mantis shrimp with infrared, probably.
No, I mean like an object. Like put it on an object, not on the mantis, and try to see if the mantis can tell. Okay, this rock is black, the color, but we're gonna put infrared. Can you see the rock? What's color? I'm guessing it's just like a flashlight, right?
Yeah, I imagine
If it's too bright, it's gonna become that color.
That's the thing. I imagine an infrared flashlight would probably be like a orange or yellow flashlight to us.
based on that velocity.
Probably.
Okay?
Whereas, like, if you used an ultraviolet flashlight, it'd probably appear like a blue to purple light.
And handle any collisions.
Oh yeah, technically, isn't
So
brown just orange?
this code,
or is it the other way around?
Yeah, I'd say that brown falls under like the orange family.
We're not going to keep this code. We're going to end up rewriting a lot of this for our character
I'm stealing
body
that from
because this is
Tasha
just
Pai right
obviously a template that
It's
Godot
not
throws into here.
Let's see. Did you guys know
but it does
there is
give
not
us
brown
a
lights?
start-
It doesn't exist in the light color spectrum. I guess, right?
Apparently, pink doesn't either.
But magenta does. Wait, does magenta exist?
Where on the rainbow is magenta?
Look, man, I'm not very smart when it comes to color.
No. Think about the rainbow. Where's magenta?
I don't look at rainbows. I haven't looked at a rainbow in 10 years, and you know goddamn why.
Okay, not okay. Fair enough. I mean, it is Rainbow Month, but no. Here's the thing: if you look like at like the spectrum of light, no, magenta doesn't actually exist on the light spectrum.
You got a point. I'm trying to remember my childhood, looking at rainbows. There's red.
That's the
You
thing.
can barely see the green, but I remember seeing green.
That's the thing. Magenta would exist between the red and the violet, but those are at opposite ends. That's like combining infrared with ultraviolet. You can't see that. It doesn't exist on the spectrum.
I hate color theory.
Yep.
Look, man, I can't tell the difference from teal, green, and blue. Okay, you tell me that's teal, I'm like, that is green.
Okay, no, that's actually funny. Did you ever watch the series Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared?
It sounds familiar, but I don't think so.
It was a show that kind of parodied like Sesame Street or those kinds of like educational kids shows, and often went very morbid and kind of gory.
Is it the puppet ones?
Yeah, yeah, the one
And
with
it's like a duck.
yeah, the duck, the yellow kid, and the red guy with all
The spaghetti guy?
Yes, yeah, the red spaghetti guy.
The only reason why I know about this is because of Matt Pat years ago.
Yeah,
That's
okay,
about it.
But do you remember green is not a creative color? That line.
No.
Okay, well that was during one where like they talked to a notebook, and like the yellow kid's favorite color was green, and it said that green is not a creative color. And here's the thing: we have so few names for the colors in the spectrum of green that it's actually hard to differentiate one from the other.
So we are really poor at the color green.
Our culture, yeah, there's other cultures that have a whole bunch of different names for different green colors, the same way that the Inuit have a whole bunch of different names for snow.
Ah, okay, that makes sense.
Because like we can see a whole bunch of different shades of green, you know, like the yellowy greens, the bluey greens, some of the duller greens, the more vibrant ones. Like we can see them, but we don't have names for them, so we just lump them all together as green.
That would make sense, especially with my capabilities. That's green. No, you're idiot. That's like blue. I was like, no, that looks greenish to me.
That's green. That's blue. That's turquoise.
That's teal. And the only
Part of the
reason why I
point
know
to
that color
kind of
exists is because of
reference
StarCraft.
and understand how character bodies
Ironically
work,
speaking.
and to see it in action immediately like this. So it's useful, and again, it does give us a starting point. So we don't have to start completely from scratch. Although we may end up starting from scratch anyways, just because I think it's useful for beginners sometimes.
Jump to this next part of the tutorial.
Welcome in the last
Yeah, I don't know how exciting that this is. This is for the coding.
lecture. We learned about basic static
But,
bodies and a basic kinematic body. In this, I want
people are
to
chatting.
start
And
mainly
yes,
from scratch
no matter
in
what,
order to give you an
green
idea.
skins are all the same. I agree.
Can't really object to that. I guess it depends which Inuit language or dialect you're talking about. Yeah, God, that is true because like so many different Inuit tribes and whatnot.
I bet they all agree that the color P in snow mean
look,
the same.
Hey, wait. I will care about the differentiation between the Inuits when people acknowledge that there is a difference between American English, Canadian English, British English, Australian English, and all the other subsets of English out there. But no, if they're just going to lump it all into one fucking dialect, then I'm going to lump all their shit into one fucking dialect. Like,
I would say something, but I'm in the strong opinion of like, sure.
Like that's the
Yes.
thing. I'm done like going into the fucking detailed nuances for everyone else and then being lumped and then just being lumped all together in response. It's like nah. Y'all gotta respect my shit before I respect yours. Like you've run out of your free respect cards. That shit was used up years ago.
It reminds me of a certain side where they kind of promote it, but don't act on it. What a beautiful month.
Oh yeah. Oh god.
Of how to I feel like it's good to kind of start from scratch.
I may lose my
if you're a
internet
beginner.
at any time.
So
Just
we're
a
going to
heads
be
up.
retyping some of this code.
So apparently a whole bunch of this code's getting wiped out and redone. So like first part of the tutorial. So yeah, you guys get to see this stuff recreated from scratch, because that was just the basic template, which, so far as I'm concerned, is pretty good for Godot 4, because that means you can just drop a character body template down, and it immediately gives you the code to move and to jump without any additional coding required. So super fast to prototype.
And I mean, technically, you
Imagine
don't have
back
to
then when you
retype it
actually
all if
had
you
to
don't
code
want
it.
to, but
I would have killed myself if I had to.
Well, what, if you had to code like everything from zero, or?
Yes, including the engine.
Yeah. Yeah, Code Bullet does
Thank
that.
God for the future.
Well, yeah, nowadays we got...
Yeah, I don't know why he wants to do so much suffering. Like, I get it. We should be making more game engines and not relying on a few industries.
Oh, no, there's tons of game engines. If you watch Game from Scratch, like, there's new engines rising and falling all the time.
Well, I'm talking
it'll
about
be
the
good.
ones that are actually
So let's start
commercial.
by using some
When
It
you
all
say
depends on-
game engines, I'm not talking about those like one-off ones. Godot is definitely not a one-off.
No, like, that's the thing. There are actual other ones. They've got multiple names. I just don't bother because I don't have time to learn a new game engine every couple months. And I just went with Godot because, from what I was reading, like, Game Maker Studio has a memory leak issue. And so I figured that Godot was the most versatile, best for 2D stuff, and most likely to have fairly efficient memory, which, if you're going to code for mobile, is kind of important.
Oh, you're planning to have this on mobile?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, then that makes sense why you want to do that. Also, it's free.
Yeah. Yeah, it's free. Don't need any extra licenses for it. It is way more efficient than the Unreal Engine, which is super bloody bulky.
Oh, wait. You want to hear about bulky? Unity. Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, yeah.
You said bloatware? I say Unity. And then on top of that,
Export
Unity is
variables
considered
for
incomplete
our,
game engine, if you know what that's referring
player
to.
characters movement,
Actually, no. Could you go into more detail on that?
so that we can easily manipulate.
So the reason why they call
the
it
characters
a
properties,
incomplete
the
game engine is
variables for
because you have to
movement
buy
inside of
all the
the editor.
modules for it. It doesn't come complete with everything you
So we'll
need to
start with
make a game
export
that's actually
var
practical.
acceleration.
Unlike the Unreal
We'll set
Engine or
this
Godot, you
equal
have
to
everything you need to make a game. But with Unity,
512.
you probably
gonna
have
be a
to buy,
really
the
big value.
marketplace for all those modules and frameworks. Yeah, you're probably gonna have to do that.
Ugh.
Yes, exactly. So imagine bloatware with even more bloatware. Except, you're using some of the modules for some stuff, but half of that module you're not going to use, so it's even more bloat. And you don't know how to
That's
remove it
because
because
we're going to
it's
need
so
to
much
multiply it by
goddamn
delta,
freaking
and
code,
I'll
it's not
show
even
you
worth
why
your
in just a
time.
bit.
So then you have to be like,
So we're
man, I
gonna
have to
do export
go with some inefficiencies.
var max.
No, that's the thing. That was why I try not to mess around with Unreal Engine too much, because it is super bulky, super bloaty. There's so many parameters that I will never touch. Wouldn't even know
But it's complete.
how to. I think it's complete. So that's the advantage it has over Unity. But because it's so bloated and bulky, I got the one sample game that it's like, hey, here's our sample mobile game. And I was like, okay, well, put that on my phone. And my phone is of medium tier, I'd say. Wow, this runs like dog shit. How the fuck?
The Unreal Engine is
Which is
not
weird,
designed for.
But the thing, it's weird
phones.
because fucking Infinity Blade ran great.
Because someone who knows programming probably got rid of everything that is not necessary. Also, it's an older game engine, probably, too.
It's just an older
Like,
version.
how old is that?
Old enough that I can get the Infinity Blade assets for free on the Unreal Store as demo stuff. It's still made in the Unreal Engine, just like either early Unreal 4 or Unreal 3.
I'm going to go on the strong opinion that whoever was developing it were like real developers and they got rid of all the bloat and stuff that they don't need to make
And
it,
it was an iPhone
working correctly.
And it was an iPhone exclusive.
Hmm.
That's something that
Actually,
as an
that
Android
could
user,
help.
As an Android user, that annoyed the shit out of me but because like Infinity Blade was the one mobile game I actually wanted to play, but
Oh, me too. I remember playing the shit out of that. I don't remember this one too,
Speed?
but I just remember finding out, oh, if I
Now,
want to
this is going
progress,
to
I have
be
to
a much
literally level
smaller
up
value.
every single
We're gonna
weapon,
set
and I
this
did.
to
That was fun.
64.
I
And
never beat
that
one of the bosses,
is,
if I
because it
remember right. It's a really hard one.
oh yeah, that's the thing. Like, there's the boss, and then there's the real boss.
Yeah, I think that's the one I couldn't beat.
Yeah, the real boss. I think my brother had an iPhone, and he eventually beat it. Yeah.
Look, man, I'm not a bright man.
So, as for some of the coding here, so what I've done here is some export variables. And the main difference between these and regular variables is that when you export them, you can go to the player and you can now access them from outside the script itself. So when prototyping, it's much easier to test stuff rather than going in and changing the script each time. You can just go to the character object and set things up. Now, once I have it moving, we'll be able to see this in a little more detail. But basically, I've set it so that the acceleration is a value of 512 and the max speed is 64. But I can then adjust those to taste and be like, okay, well, do I want to have the acceleration and make them feel a bit slower and chunkier? Do I want to increase the max speed so that they can zip across the screen even faster, etc.?
it won't be multiplied by delta, and I'll explain why in just a minute again. Okay. Now export var friction, and I'm going to set this to 256. We may end up having to mess with this a little bit to get it to feel good. I'll do another.
Now this I think is kind of neat. Misspelled this. Adding in friction and making that a variable within the character means that hypothetically I could create something that was, say, ice, and then make it so that whenever the player is touching ice, their friction goes down significantly, allowing them to slide by using the in-game physics, well, the in-engine physics.
I'm kind of sad that you
Export
fixed the spell. Oh, the
and we'll set
misspelling.
this to.
It would have been
Well,
so funny
actually,
where you did an ice level. It's like, why it's not working?
Oh, God.
We could use a built-in
By the way, that is the
gravity
most
from
common
the
bug you're gonna
physics
find in all
settings.
games.
Yeah.
It's literally misspelling.
But I want to have our character have its own
For
gravity
Godot,
value.
you don't have to put
I
a
don't want to have
end
like a
statement
global gravity that
in,
affects all of the.
your stuff.
Nope. At least not when it comes to variables.
Characters equally.
So I know it's not exactly C#, but it's very similar.
Yeah,
though.
like there's no semicolons yet, but I'm pretty sure they're going to come up soon.
That might be something that you can do if you want to manipulate gravity. It's like a mechanic for your
Because
game.
right now everything here is variables and gravity, is variables and constants. And for chat, the difference between a variable and a constant is that a constant cannot be changed. The variables, like all of these, can be altered freely throughout the code. A constant cannot. It is just a set number for a set value.
Game, but for our purposes, we're just going to have our own gravity. I'm going to set this to 200. And we'll do export var jump force. And we'll set this equal to 128.
Oh, so that's how night vision goggles work. So it's basically infrared, but we see it as green.
var,
so it's mimicking
yeah,
green.
that's it, actually.
Yep.
Those are the only ones we need.
That's the basics.
Huh.
It takes that wavelength of light and then translates it into a way for us to actually see it. Finally, if I have some mods for my camera, which allow them to see in infrared to a certain spectrum of nanometers. Now,
Can you technically change the color, or is there a reason why they put green?
the reason they put green is because without it, it just comes out as black and white. Although Well, though, what's kind of neat is when I do the exposure, the higher levels of infrared, they actually, I think they come out kind of almost purpley, but usually it's just like very black and white. But I have one that's very close to the red end of the spectrum, and it actually puts kind of a reddish filter on stuff. But the most pure infrared shots basically just go straight to the black and white spectrum. Like, it doesn't actually have color.
Oh, okay.
And I forgot my equal
I've been
sign
needing to
here.
get myself some though.
Yeah. Well,
I heard it's very good.
it is. The main issue, though, is that most modern cameras, to protect the sensor at the back, have infrared blockers. And you would have to have those removed separately. Like, I don't. So, whereas someone who has a proper custom camera could probably take a pretty fast shot, I actually have to expose mine for at least a couple minutes. Like, in order to get a proper shot. Like, several seconds to a minute, maybe even a couple minutes.
All right. Also, for Cultus Massium, HTML is not obsolete. It's just not a programming language. Well, it's not considered in the community as one, but it's still useful.
Yeah, like if you want to make websites, and making websites is not ever obsolete, correct?
Yeah. It's just a little terminology you always have to be aware of if you get an interview. If you call it a programming language, people will laugh at you,
There we go.
unfortunately.
Okay, so we've set up the variables for our character, and they're all exported, so we can manipulate them.
I mean,
in the
technically,
editor if we want
JavaScript,
to, and try and
if
get
you
a
use the same
character
concept,
controller that
JavaScript
feels
is in
really
the same
good.
category. It uses a C
We're
engine
going
to
to
operate.
create a
So you can
new
say it's
function
just
here.
literally
This will be
script.
the
It's not really a
physics
programming
process.
language, but it
If
is
you
a
remember
programming
before,
language.
that's what we're
Whatever,
using
computer
for
science
this,
is weird. This is
I
why
think that earlier
I
in
don't
the course
study
or in the video I
mathematics.
said kinematic body.
And
I
I'm a
meant
programmer
character body.
instead.
I will get used to the fact that they changed that on me. So for our character body, we want to use a physics process. And the very first thing we're going to do is get our input for left and right. So var input vector equals input dot get axis. And then we'll do UI right and UI left. Okay, now using that, we can start to move our character. So we're going to be applying a horizontal force to our character. And let's create a new function for this. Well, actually, we'll do that in a bit. We'll just do it here. So we'll say if input vector is not equal to 0.
I don't see anyone else talking, so you guys don't have anything.
X.
That's okay. We can just make random shit up in the meanwhile.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to follow along with the tutorial as we go here. So right here, I've eliminated all the constants as well as the previous gravity function. And I've created a separate function to process the physics for the character. And this is where the variable delta comes in. Because delta is the variable for time passing. So, like, this is inherent to the physics process, but basically it takes a look every single physics tick and makes an adjustment accordingly.
Is your guide like a video or it's like a little
It's a video.
document? It's a video.
It's a video series guide.
Are you using OBS?
I'm using StreamYards, but I don't think.
No, never mind. I know StreamYard can't do what I want. What I want to say, but I say it anyway. With OBS, you can have it in the bottom left next to chat, so people can see it, so they have something visual when you're looking.
Well,
there,
the thing is, like, I'm not using a free one. For one, I'm using like one that I paid for, and I don't necessarily want to get in trouble for, broadcasting something that is technically paid for material.
I mean, it's a walkthrough. If you're walking through the walkthrough, it's still transmittable, right?
I'm not sure. It's a bit of a gray area, so.
Ah, okay then. I mean, it's understandable.
Yeah. And plus, like, the guy did put a lot of effort into a very good Godot tutorial. Like, if anyone's interested, if you look up Heart Beast game development, like, he's on YouTube and he does create a bunch of free tutorials and free video walkthroughs. Oh, got a... Hey, Scottish guy, thanks for the sub. Yeah, Heart Beast, like, he's the one who introduced me to Godot, and I ended up purchasing his course on the 1-bit Godot system, which is what I'm using as the baseline for this. Now, he's doing it with a Metroidvania shooter, but I'm just going to cannibalize various parts of it and customize it to make this Contr clone.
I mean, that's all how games work anyway, right?
More or less.
Imagine if everyone went from scratch. That's
If everyone
insane amount of work.
Yeah, no, if everyone went from scratch and had to like figure out all the coding and programming from scratch, no, would not get done. So
I think actually that
but as things are right now, so the character doesn't even fall because we've taken out all the physics that give him gravity. We've taken away the ability to move. Technically, it can sense whether or not I'm hitting left or right, but it's not actually doing anything at the moment.
I want to make sure, I want to see if this returns a vector. It returns a float. Yeah, that's what I was worried about. Okay, so this isn't input vector.x, it is just input vector. And it's not a vector,
right back.
actually.
I desperately need coffee.
It's an axis, just like it's called here, input axis. So let's use that term. Here we go. So input axis does not equal zero, is not equal to 0. Then we're going to want to accelerate because it means we're moving. So we'll say velocity, which for a character body 2D is a built-in variable. Remember, as we manipulate the velocity of our character and then call move and slide later, it will move the character. So velocity.x plus equals, well, the easy way to do this actually is to say velocity.x equals move toward velocity dot x. Wait, let's see. What are the variables here for move towards? The from, yeah. So velocity dot x, and then we go towards a 2. We want to move towards our max speed. Okay. So input axis times max speed. There we go. And then we want to pass in the amount that we want to move by, and that's going to be acceleration times delta. Okay.
All right, so I'm just going to clean this up real quick and then explain like what the heck all this stuff means. And this is where your spelling comes in really important because velocity input. Yeah. Thankfully, it pops up red to show when you're making a mistake here. But so right here it's saying if the input axis does not equal 0. So if left or right are being pressed, then it says, okay, now your velocity along the x-axis and velocity is built into the character is going to be moving towards, well, your velocity.x, which is your current velocity, and then the input axis, which will be left or right, times the maximum speed. That's what it wants to move towards, and the rate at which you'll move to is the acceleration times delta. So, for those of you who remember your physics classes, the difference between speed and acceleration is per second. So, whereas you might be moving at a certain speed, But if you get faster, then you are changing your speed by a certain amount per second, and that's your acceleration. So by multiplying the acceleration by the delta, which is every passage of time, we are effectively saying, okay, this is the amount of speed that you add every single second, and you cap out at the maximum speed, and to either the left or the right, so that we don't run into that problem like in Super Mario, where it's like, oh yeah, your forward speed is limited, but if you're going backwards, you have infinite, because it doesn't calculate for that. So we're already preventing some speed run strats right here. Yeah, one character can mess all the code up. Oh god, yes.
I came running back here. How dare you get rid of speed running in your game?
I never said I got rid of speed running. I said I got rid of the infinite backwards speed run strat infamous to Nintendo's N64 games.
And let's actually.
That's the secret.
Look, man, I literally want to see someone speedrun your game backwards. I just find that stuff hilarious.
Well,
You know, some idiot. So not idiot. I shouldn't call it idiots, but someone who's like, I know I can do it, and I'm going to do it because I can.
Well, that's really the challenge. Like, I got to make a game that is as solid and consistent as I can make it, and then I toss it out there, and then someone gets super obsessed enough that they figure out some strat. It's like, that's the thing. Like, people, I'm sure, speedrun the crap out of Contra, but like for people to want to speedrun this, well, I do intend on adding incentives like an in-game clock. Because one of the ideas is to add a couple of variables, like, okay, how fast did you complete the level? How many enemies did you take out? And then it's going to give you like a point score for each level at the end. And that way I can reward both the players who are meticulous and take out basically everything, and the players who try to get through it as fast as possible.
Actually run our game and test this to make sure that
So you're telling me if I want the green skin costume, I have to be real good.
It doesn't.
Yeah. If you want to play with some, because that's the thing, I will put skins as various rewards. Because like I want to give people the dopamine hit for, like, even if they don't beat a level, I want to give them incentives. So I plan on adding not a cash shop, but a reward shop.
Work. So that's not. Oh yeah, I forgot to call move and slide. You can't just change the velocity. You actually have to call move and slide. There you go. Now let's see if it works. Okay, it does work.
Why is this not
Slide.
put in the function? So I think this should work. So yeah, no, that.
There you go. Now let's see if it works.
Yeah, that works in the demo code, but it's not working here. Why?
Slide. You can't just change the velocity. You actually have to call move and slide.
See, this is the point where you're like, crap. Where's the bug? Where's the typo?
Let's see here. Were you testing it little by little? Like, what's the last time you started testing it?
Well, no, like this is the first time that it actually has
There you go.
something that could theoretically be even tested without putting in this move and slide function here. Nothing else behind it will even register.
This is why debugging is so important.
I should be able to slide left and right here. Input axis is the same. Get axis, UI right, UI left. X equals these various things if input axis 0. What I can do here print input detected. So it should do a little bit of a print off if the input is detected. Input does not look like it is being detected, so that might be it. So we'll go into project settings, input map. Okay, that. Oh no, here we are. Oh yeah, UI left. Left, so this should all be operating. Maybe input axis might not be equal to 0. Input axis, UI right, UI left. Huh. Yeah, this is where the bug fixing gets really annoying. Should be getting some sort of feedback when I hit left and right here. It should be printing something out. Maybe I'll just say, okay, print every time something happens with the physics here. Print the word physics. Not saying that absolutely nothing's happening. So. Because I had a character body 2D and I need to put player in. That might have been the issue there, where because I had a character body 2D being tested instead of a player. Player, because it has a different name, is obviously different from the character body. So, player. Oh, still not moving. Welcome to the joys of coding and bug fix, you guys. Why did you get? I'm doing it Godot. What's wrong with Godot? An R18 furry game would make you guys rich. Okay, how about I just create a simple platforming game? And who knows? Maybe if there is significant demand for R18 furry Contra, then we can put a different skin on it. But right now, let's get baseline game functionality before we worry about theming.
Wait, what? Furries? No, please, God, no.
Hey, do you have any idea how hard up I am for money right now? I am not. I'm not exactly in a position to say no to the furries, especially since they will throw a shit ton of cash at something.
Now let's see.
Okay, so seriously. Oh, okay. Do you know where the bug is right here? You see this physics process right here? That's not what it's supposed to look like. It's supposed to look like that. There's supposed to be an underscore before it to call the actual function.
Remember what I said? The most common mistake.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay. You know why they usually use the underscore in most programming languages? I don't know if it's the same here.
I don't.
But it's a private access, right?
Private in the sense that it is personal to this particular function, I believe. To this particular set, I guess.
Yeah, it's called a naming convention because you don't want to override the main class. Like, You're duplicating a whole bunch from the same class, and you don't want one of the private, the ones that's private to that to be modified, and then the whole thing gets screwed up.
Yeah. Well, so this would be private to basically everything because everything requires physics to be processed. So yeah, I guess they wouldn't want that overwritten by a separate one. So okay, now that we have the physics process, okay, on one hand, yeah, we have the character moving. On the other hand, friction is not a thing right now. Like I'm literally just like we have space physics here. I can increase the amount, but rather than stopping, I can like I'm not pressing anything right now. He just keeps sliding. And the other thing is it's inverted. So yeah.
See if it works. Okay. It does work, but I got it in the wrong direction. So that surprises me a little bit. I must have swapped these two.
Yeah, so apparently, and this is something that the tutorial got wrong, it's not me. Apparently, yeah, you're supposed to put UI left, then UI right. And that, I believe, is because UI left is along the negative axis, so negative X, and then UI right would be the positive axis. So we swap those around, and yes, now we have this operational. But I don't want him to keep sliding forever. So what I'm going to put down here is an else if statement. Rather than just a broad else. I'm going to just... Well, actually, no. I should probably... No. What? This is where you got to be careful about future-proofing it. Because I try to jump ahead of the tutorials to test my own coding ability in situations like this. So what I would say here...
You're not going to like what I'm about to say as a teacher.
What are you saying?
If this is your first time ever doing this, you got to do the monkey do method first.
Yes, and while this is my first time doing it in Godot 4, I have done the monkey do method at least twice previously with this particular tutorial.
Okay, then.
Like
I mean, you're doing pretty well. It's just literally the most common mistakes that I do too, by the way.
So what I will do right now is just like, okay, just straight up else. So if input axis does equal 0, then velocity dot x, so all horizontal movement will just equal 0. Colon in there to separate it. Now I'm not getting into the velocity dot y because that's going to be more dependent on various gravity stuff. And I also want to allow for being able to aim up and down. So I'm not going to set velocity as a whole to 0, but that would require me to also include the y coordinate. So I'm just saying that if the player is not touching the controller at all in the x or y direction, then the character stops moving to the left or right. Period. That way, yeah, if I let go, then we just have a completely flat stop. Which I think is better for a platformer because you want to have precise controls. You don't want to be slipping and sliding all over the place. Also, I really do not like this acceleration or this max speed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double the max speed. it still feels a little slow to accelerate. So I'm going to double the acceleration to 1024. That feels good because he just jumps to maximum speed almost right away. Like if you were to run across the screen, it'd be like so yeah, progress. We have a character moving back and forth across the screen. Carry on. Why am I making a game? Because I need to monetize something on this channel. So I'm gonna make a game and then I'm gonna sell it to the Warband for exactly $4.20. Is the stream lagging? It might be. Let me know if it is, because I'm not entirely sure about the settings. AI getting coding should have one of the few things done successfully. Well, Tasha, like coding, like if you told, and correct me if I'm wrong, okay, Lord, if you told 50 different programmers to solve the exact same problem with code, you'd probably get at least 10 different answers.
Oh, that gives me a story. When I was first learning how to do Java, my professor was so pissed off because in the directions it said divide something, and she wanted us to use something called module or mode
first, and then UI right should.
I just made a simple function to divide it, and it still got the right answer. And then everyone got pissed off at me.
You can see we
like,
accelerate up to the
and then they
max
had to
speed,
redo the whole fucking exam.
And our
because
character's a little floaty, and that's by
it was that bad.
The type of game that
so
we're making
yes,
here.
you can all find the same answer different ways,
but
and at the same time, depending on who asked the question, it could be a different answer, but you still be correct.
It's better with whatever design you want your game to be.
Yeah, I know it's
okay. So
coding truly is an art
else,
in a different form.
So if our
and even the same person's not necessarily going to code the exact same thing twice unless they're doing it on purpose.
Input axis is not equal to 0, that means we're moving, right? Else, we aren't moving, we should apply some friction. So we'll apply friction also using move toward. We can say velocity dot x equals move toward velocity dot x. So that's your starting. Now what are we moving to? We're moving to 0 because we're decelerating, right?
Now, here's what the tutorial wants us to do, which makes a bit more sense in case we want to actually apply proper friction. So it also wants to use the move towards thing, but instead of going towards our direction times our max speed, we're going towards 0. And instead of acceleration times delta, we make it the friction times the delta. Now, if we move, there's a little bit of a slide here. Which, if I go in here and I reduce the friction to say 128, cut it in half, then there's super slippy slidey, kind of like he's on ice. If I hit that up to, say, 512, very precise, very snappy, but it isn't quite as exact a stop, so it does actually feel like there's a little bit of deceleration there. So this is where, like, once he's moving and jumping around, it's all about fine-tuning the details to try to get it to feel just right. So much of coding, especially when it comes to a game, is all about getting the feel right. So long before you even end up actually firing the gun, priority number 1 is making sure that it feels good to just run around the screen. Because if it doesn't feel good to run around the screen, The rest of the game is completely borked. Carry on. Need to learn coding? Got any tutorials about the basics? Freecodecamp.org is on YouTube, and they have tons of free tutorials in basically every language you could want. So, you're just going to do this in Unity? We've already been through Unity. Unity is bloatware. Godot is incredibly tight and concise in comparison to Unity. And this originally did come with some basic physics and input programs. So, yeah, you can throw something together super quick using a whole bunch of pre-made stuff. But
That doesn't feel the same, man.
no, it's going to be like a fairly generic asset flip at that point. It's probably not going to... It's going to feel like a whole bunch of stuff just kiboshed together. Is kibosh even the right term? Slapped together. It's going to feel like a whole bunch of stuff slapped together. It's not going to feel like a unified whole to play.
I mean, technically, Tasha Pi, this is coding 101.
Yeah.
Like, as someone who has teach many people programming, they make it so overcomplicated with all these complicated terms, so they have a high salary. Once you dumb it down, it makes so much sense.
That's the thing. Like, and that's kind of what these are. Like, this coding stream is very much a test to see if it works, and so far, I mean, I'm getting double-digit viewers, so that's kind of par for the course at least. So people at least seem somewhat interested. But at the same time, I feel like I do need to do a bunch of this off stream in order to make the end product a little more interesting, so that I don't end up spending like 10 streams just getting the character to move around.
Wait, there's a certification for C++? Wait, what? Where?
Yeah.
I don't know of any certifications for programming languages.
And then how?
At least any that people accept would be the key word.
Well, let's take a look. Just to stick it.
I wish there was certs for programming languages, though. Let me see. Let me look it up. Are there certs? Because every cert that I teach a student, it's always useless in HR.
Yeah, no, like, I'm looking through just like Reddit asking the questions. Like, I've hired hundreds of C++ software engineers in my career. I have not once put any value on any certificate.
I don't know. It's true. I told all my students the certification and programming
How
is
much
just
are we
tissue
doing?
paper. Very
We're
expensive
doing
too.
friction times delta.
The only time that I will say
Okay.
it's worth getting certification
And
in
there we
IT is like hardware,
Now we
software,
should decelerate
networking,
after moving.
cybersecurity.
And
Something that is a
alter the
lot harder to
friction
show on a
value
portfolio.
to be whatever
That's different.
seems to work
If you can't
best.
show it on the
I think I'm
portfolio,
just going to leave it at
there's
that
most
for
likely
now
a certification.
and see how
But
that
if
feels.
it's something you can show off on a portfolio,
Okay.
there's less needs for certifications. If
we
that
need
makes
to
sense.
apply our gravity though. So let's apply some gravity. And we can do this using a check. We'll do this right up here at the top.
I mean, you're
actually.
right, Sir Yidis. Do you
before
want to
we
pay
even
$500 on
We'll just say
W3.org certification for
not-
JavaScript, where I'll be honest, not one student ever needed for a job interview or requirement or anything like that. It was like a useless bullet point.
Yeah,
I still had to teach my students pass that stupid, useless JavaScript thing. $300. Or is it $100? No matter, it's too much.
Like, here, let me just drop this in chat real quick. Like, right here. freecodecamp.org. Tons of lectures. Anything you could want to code. They probably have a multi-hour lecture right there to get you started.
There's a lot of good stuff on YouTube on coding specifically. So many. It's one of the major reasons why I don't have my own channel. The competition is fierce.
Yeah. Also, real names not given. Yeah, I'm using GD script for this one.
Is on floor.
Which is just a syntax of C sharp, right? Like sugarcoating, I think is what they call it.
I honestly don't know.
Let me Google it quickly.
We can check to see if we're not on the floor. If our character is not on the floor, this is built into character bodies. We'll apply the gravity. So velocity.
Oh no, it's his own programming language.
.y
Completely.
plus. Well, let's
that's
use
interesting. Oh, I didn't know that. It's
let's
basically
use
like
move
Python.
toward
It's an
again.
interpreted, but that means what's the
equals
engine then?
move
It's probably C sharp,
toward
right?
velocity .y. So that's our starting position. The from. Now, what's the to? The to is going to be our max gravity amount, and we can just set this to the max speed.
Create a language: GD script, C++, and C sharp. Godot is written in C++.
I thought it was in C sharp.
A quick Google search says it was written in C++.
I mean, it makes sense the more I think about
So
it.
you could have
because C++ is used a lot in game engines, but also C sharp is becoming the new standard, though. Unless I'm completely wrong in that. I need to do the research for that for my workplace.
That. All right, so what I've done here is added a bit of gravity. So if not is on floor, which is an existing statement to check and say, hey, check the collision box. Is there a collision that you can collide with? Like, is there a physics collision directly on the bottom? If so, then immediately apply gravity and do it with the vertical movement up to the maximum speed and gravity times delta. Now, personally, what I would actually add here, because I don't want the max speed to the left and the right to be the same as the up and the down. So what I'm going to add is a new variable here. I'm going to call it terminal velocity. And I'm going to have it equal, let's say, 64 for the moment. So rather than have it go to max speed, I'm going to have it be at terminal velocity. That way I can control your maximum vertical speed and your maximum horizontal speed and have them be separate rather than them both being the same. So, yeah, so he's kind of floaty right now, but as you can see, he will actually move towards the ground. But that follows...
Man, it's better to be a floater than a hover. I mean, Matic probably wants that, but not for us.
God damn, poor Matic.
Just imagine if we live in the Matrix and he had access to the weight command. He's like, oh yeah, I can make anything fat. Now they truly are heavy boned.
Oh god, I remember there was this one. I don't know if you ever saw the Earthworm Jim animated series, but there was this one gun that was literally a fat gun.
I like old shit.
Like literally, Professor Monkey for a head popped out of a cake and immediately started blasting, and yeah, turned everyone into like land whales.
I love good shit like that. Also, I want to make a correction. I did a little bit more research, and I thought there were game developers were moving into C sharp. I am incorrect. It's still C++, which Most game engines run C++. I thought they were moving to C#. I'm incorrect in that. C# is like second or third, but it's still C++.
And
So
yeah,
if you're a game developer, then why the hell is my company doing C#?
that is a very good.
So they all lied to me. You know what? They got to ChatGPT. Like more bull fucking shit, man. Like they're telling me this is the future. Someone who knows more than me. He's been in the industry for fucking 10 years, and I just Google search it, and you wrong.
Honestly,
Whatever. This is what I expect from a woman anyway.
So yeah, probably a bit of adjustments to do on the terminal velocity there, but it does feel pretty snappy. So for now, also yeah, real names not given. Yeah, it supports C#, but it is written in C++.
Well, to be more exact, it's using the C++ engine. In the script that you have, it's just running the script similar to JavaScript or Python. It's an interpreted language you're using right now.
Now, another thing that I like to do, and again, this is usually separate from these from the tutorials, but I like to also detect if it is on the ceiling. So I don't like to just be like, oh, hey, is it just touching the ground? No, I like to be the idea where, okay, do they bump their head on the ceiling? And so to that end, what I do is I just say, if it hits the ceiling, then you stop moving, period. Because you can't move any higher, and you're only going to be touching the ceiling if you're going upwards.
So there's going to be no digging in the ceiling?
Not that I have planned, no. But I will have to be careful about one-way platforms, so this might change later. But the thing is, if I don't do that, and then I say, oh, hey, jump for a certain period of time, and then it goes up into the ceiling, what you end up getting is those moments where they stick to the ceiling and they don't fall back down. So, actually, what I might want to do is if velocity dot y downwards is since downwards is positive, I need to see if velocity dot y is less than or equal to 0. So if velocity dot y is a negative number, meaning that the character is moving upwards, then I set it to 0. But this way, if the character starts to fall due to the influence of gravity, then they will actually be allowed to fall. Because if I just had it at set it to 0 when they're touching the ceiling, then they basically touch the ceiling and then they never leave it because they'd be constantly resetting their vertical velocity to 0. Until I jump, it won't really be visible right now, but that's just a failsafe that I've used in other projects that I wanted to make sure is in here.
That looks like freaking ice.
The stuff on the...
Well, remember, I'm looking at your stream, so it's like delayed, but
Yeah.
when you're using it, it looks like he's on ice.
Well, yeah, but that's because I'm just like sliding him back and forth right now. But if I just go and then stop him from moving, then it looks a little more realistic. But he's also sliding because I don't have any of the animations put in. Also, I believe that Chronic stream should be starting by now. I will just double check.
He's streaming again? Holy shit.
Yeah.
He's been streaming a lot lately.
Oh, yeah. He's been streaming like crazy. Like, that was the reason why I didn't freaking stream last Thursday, was because Chronic was going. I was like, God damn it. Let's say, no, it says. Oh, wait, no. He's got it scheduled for 2 days from now. I just saw 9:15, and I'm like, God damn it, Chronic. Damn, he'll be streaming again on Thursday. I'm never going to finish System Shock. Yeah, no, Chronic.
Well, if he's having a debate, everyone's gonna be there.
Yeah, no, but he's streaming 2 days from now, so I'm not going to lose you guys just yet. So will this be like Broforce? We can only shoot on the x-axis. No. The objective is for it to be like Contra, so you will be able to shoot in 8 different directions.
A separate variable for how fast your character can fall vertically. But I'm just going to tie it with, you know what? Let's make equal to in the course. Well, we're going to have gravity for our character. You see, we do for our character to jump.
Bump ahead.
So if input dot is action just pressed UI accept.
So now we're getting into the jumping. Thankfully, there's some nice autocomplete stuff here. Kind of handy.
You could do UI up as well. In fact, I think we'll do UI up for now. We may change this later. Then we can set our jump. Now to set the jump, you can just manually set the the velocity.y. Velocity.y equals negative jump force. Negative so that we go up, right? And here we go. Now, the problem is that we can jump at any point.
So now we've added here where if we hit the UI accept button, which would be like A on your gamepad, or in this case, spacebar, now we have jump. So we can jump. This is a piddly, pathetic jump. So we gotta up the jump force. We'll double it. You always gotta measure the jump force against the gravity. There we go. It actually might be an idea. Is that I could tie the jump force to the gravity. Make that a particular variable, but that would be something to consider for coding. Right now, the jump force is 2.5 times the force of gravity. Now, here's the thing. Because I didn't set anything else, I just said, hey, give an upwards pulse whenever the jump button is pressed. You can double jump, and triple jump, and quadruple jump, and quintuple jump, and so on, as much as you keep pressing the button until you eventually get bored and stop and see how far down he falls. Any second now. And there we go. That's not bad. Like, maybe a bit of adjustment of the numbers, because it feels all right. But yeah, we definitely got to add a condition so that the character can't jump infinitely. You can do a front or back flip. That will come into the animation stage. For now, I'm just getting essentially what is a moving rectangle to operate. And then I'm going to worry about tying all this stuff into the animations a little bit later in the coding. Planning WSAD and mouse name or true Contra? I'm going for true Contra. The objective will be to actually play this on your phone, but to have a UI separate, like from the screen itself, so that you don't have your hands halfway over the screen all the time. It's an idea I've had for like the past 5 years, but I haven't actually implemented it in a released game yet.
So that's something to keep in mind. We want to be able to make sure we can only jump on the ground. So the easy way to fix that is to say if we push the jump key and is on floor. We already learned about the is on floor function. We can use it here to make sure we can't jump in the air. Now we should be able to jump when we're on the floor.
So, what we have now is like, okay, character needs to be on the floor. Now, yeah, can't jump in the air. That's good enough. But what I'm going to also have to implement is a little thing called coyote time. Some platform games, like when you fall, they'll actually give you a very brief leeway period to jump. So like if you're trying to run and then you jump, but you jump just after your character is off the ground, then they'll still let you do it. And that's called coyote time because of those times in the Roadrunner cartoons where Wile E. Coyote would, walk off a cliff and it'd take him a second to realize it and then he'd fall. So coyote time is very important for platformer feel. And if you have a platformer, give that a shot. Try to walk off a cliff and see whether or not you get a fraction of a second afterwards to induce coyote time. But to do that, what I would need to do is add in a timer.
Disclosure. Please don't do this in real life.
Yeah, no. Only during platforming games. There is no coyote timer in real life. Call it coyote timer. I'm going to set it to a third of a second. And then I have to... We'll have to get into it a bit later once I remember how to access all the the actual parts of it. But needless to say, I'm going to set it so that up to a third of a second after you go off an edge, you'll still have the ability to jump. So what I would do in that case is I'd try to access coyote timer from in here. It's like var coyote timer equals $. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's how I do it. There we go. Alright, so by adding on ready to the beginning of it, this means that before it creates the coyote timer variable, it makes sure, first of all, that this entire thing, like this character player scene, it's called, for a collection of nodes and code. It's called a scene. It makes sure that the scene exists before it starts calling the variables. And so now here I create a variable that allows me to access the coyote timer node. So now I check here and go, okay, is it not on the floor? And what I do is I set the coyote timer to start. Now, instead of checking, okay, is it on the floor? think that will check if coyote timer is active. Then we'll need to create another one. Check if it is on the floor. Not is on floor. If is on floor. Actually, no, I don't need to set that. Coyote timer will just go and it will run out of time. But it should reset every single time I hit it. So we'll just give this a shot here. Yeah, falls all right. Yeah, I'm jumping. There. That actually worked. So, because I checked and see, is the coyote timer still active? Now I can actually fall off for a fraction of a second and still jump. Although I seem to be running into the infinite jump loop, so I'm guessing that didn't quite work. Maybe I need to set this coyote timer dot. Now here we are. Yeah. And coyote timer dot time left. So does coyote timer have time left? See. Still jumps on the floor. Air. No, I'm still. Process callback. One shot. Yes, there. I need to click this on so that it stops when it reaches 0 instead of infinitely spawning. Okay, so now that worked because now it ran out, but now I can't jump at all. So now I need to be sure to reset it when it's on the floor. If is on floor. Or, no, what I can do that's even easier instead of saying and coyote timer, I can say either it is on the floor or the coyote timer has time left. And now it's jumping into the ceiling. So put this in brackets. Yep, so we fall properly. Jump. But we're still running into the issue able to jump infinitely. So now this is where I need to click on this and see what happens. Okay, so time left. Oh, it produces a float. What I've been doing is checking and seeing if it exists. Then what I need to do is check is the amount of time left on it greater than 0. still running into the infinite jump problem.
Oh, let me take a quick look.
Yeah. It's just a question of when do I start the coyote timer and when does it actually end? 'Cause I think I'm starting it at the wrong point. Because I'm essentially, every time it's accelerating downwards, starting it.
Oh, that's from a library, so I don't know what the code is.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure that it's a question of when I'm calling it, because I think I'm essentially constantly restarting the timer and never actually letting it run out until the player's, well, on the floor for an extended period of time.
Let me read the logic this to make sure.
Like, I'm 90% sure that's the case.
And when is this being iterated? Because it says or there.
Down here, this is basically
Yeah,
every
on line
time.
38.
So every time I press spacebar,
Mm-hmm.
and the character is either on the floor or the amount of time left on the timer is greater than 0.
But it's an and though.
Well, and like the button has to be pressed and one of these two conditions is being met.
Wait, two conditions. Hold on.
Is on
So your
either is on the floor or the coyote timer is greater than 0.
So, okay, so if input and floor or coyote time, they're both sharing the velocity y-axis of minus jump force. Is that a
Yeah.
minus?
Yeah, basically this creates the upward velocity of a jump.
Now, when it says coyote time left is greater than 0, so as long as it's greater than 0,
Yeah.
does it go negative or positive?
It goes from positive down to 0. The problem, I think, is up here, where I have, if not is on floor, then I start the timer.
If not on floor, so I think it's iterating there over and over. Then
Precisely.
that would make sense.
So I'm never letting the coyote timer run out. So I think what I'm going to do is just get rid of the coyote timer for now.
Well, comment it out and then test it.
I'll just copy that, paste that down.
No,
here.
leave that.
Oh no, I'm commenting that out real quick. Then I just get rid of that. Because if I never start the coyote timer, then it's always going to be stuck at 3. So yeah, now we're back to the way the code was, where I can't double jump, and there's no coyote time. So I'll just go a little further ahead in the tutorial, and we'll come back to coyote time later. Because I remember that there's additional variables with regards to the jumping to add in.
I bet you're having a lot of fun.
There we go.
Oh yeah.
And it's much better. I mean, look at how small the character can move. They can jump. They have and make it more readable. So let's first talk about delta. So however, over time, but it would it's just the maximum actually represent over time. You need to multiply, right? Change in velocity.
Just bouncing through some of his explanations. Let's see. Because I've been neglecting chat while I did some debugging. Can I make it so that when you fall, the speed at which you accelerate towards the ground increases exponentially? Well, I do have gravity, and it does increase exponentially by delta. Yeah, it increases on an acceleration ratio. I just have it capped at a terminal velocity. So, like, there's only so fast that I'm going to allow you to fall. But yeah, theoretically, I could.
Over.
But, you know, unless you're falling great distances, it wouldn't really be noticeable. Or I'd have to make the initial fall speed incredibly slow.
Over time. Okay. And that's what gravity and friction, or gravity out of the way. Our gravity, you could go through and we could make a conflict to it. But if now we no longer have access to delta, and that's because delta is a variable that is local here. Okay, now we can.
Now, an additional thing that we can do here is separate out the application of gravity into its own function. And this is where stuff's going to get really neat because we start to separate stuff out. So we create a whole new function. Apply gravity. And we are going to pass through the delta variable so it still applies via physics. And then all we need to do here, cut out this chunk of code here, paste it into here, go back up into the function, there, apply the delta variable into this from the physics process, and it should work in the exact same way, but it makes it a little bit easier to see what's happening in the physics process. It's a little cleaner, a little more readable. Good, and given how complex this character is going to be, anything you can do to make the core thing more readable, it's going to matter quite a bit.
Create another function for this that is well, no, I lied. Move to what? Okay. Or is up the physics process a little bit. Now
we do the exact same thing with applying the horizontal force. Pass in delta as well, also the input axis.
Sorry to do this, great, but I gotta head out.
Yeah,
got a
no,
headache.
it's all good. I'm just finishing this up right here. So yeah, any closing thoughts? Because I think we've gone through some of the basics here, and I'm gonna have to do a bunch of off-stream coding to really make this look good. But yeah, anything you want to say to chat while we wrap up?
I can't wait for AI to be useful, so it can replace me.
Fair enough. All right. Well, thanks for coming by as always. All right, we'll head out for the night, Warband. So hopefully you enjoyed the coding stream, and we'll try to get something a little more presentable for next time. But y'all, peace out.
What do you mean? This was presentable.
More presentable.
You literally said we're gonna learn coding. This is literally coding.
I mean, that is fair enough. So leave feedback in the comments if you guys liked it or what you'd want to see. Anyway, peace out, guys.